Good evening, and let us understand at once that by good we are not speaking of the weather nor of fortune, but of good in its spiritual sense. An evening of good, an evening of communing with good, an evening of sharing good. This is not an evening of problem solving. No, it is an evening of prayer reconsidered, of turning our thought from the out here to the in here, from asking for help to yielding to help. If we do that, even for a little while, we will find that what we call an evening is not limited to these minutes. It becomes a continuing experience in consciousness. Now, I know why you have come. You have come because there are needs, and because you have prayed, and because sometimes the heavens have seemed brass, and the heart has seemed heavy, and the words have seemed tired, and you are still loving enough, courageous enough, to come and see if there is another way, and there is. But let us be careful that we do not merely exchange one technique of getting for another technique of getting. We are not going to learn how to push buttons on God. We are going to learn how to be still and know. We are going to learn the meaning of that one line which, if you go from here with nothing else, will be enough. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, He doeth the works. Let that rest on you. I can of mine own self do nothing. It is a comfort because it lifts the unbearable burden of being the fixer of your universe, and it is an offense to the human will because it says to the proud, busy mind, stand aside. It is a comfort because it means you have not failed. You have merely been taking upon yourself what was never yours. And it is an offense because it refuses your anxious industry the right to boast. Now remember this, inasmuch as the Father within doeth the works, prayer is not the art of persuading God, nor the attempt to wind Him up to our program. Prayer is the art of consenting to the presence that is already here, already perfect, already enough. And I am going to interrupt myself right here to say what you already know by your own experience. The struggle in prayer is real. You have repeated holy words as if the syllables themselves might turn the lock. You have fought fear with fiercer will, hammering your thought against the circumstance until exhausted. You have timed your petitions to the clock and peered at the outer world to see if anything is moving yet. You have tightened your jaw in the night and promised God bargains. If this turns, I will do thus and so. And then you have gone on with the day, still carrying a stone on the chest. Excuse me, but you know this to be true. Now I am not blaming you. I am not blaming myself. We have done as we have been taught to do, but the fruit has been mixed because we have misunderstood the way of spirit. We have thought that prayer is a lever with which to move things. Prayer is not a lever, prayer is a letting. You see, if the Father within doeth the works, and He does, then the entire problem of prayer is reversed. We do not start with a condition we must change. We start with a presence we must acknowledge. We do not begin with words we must multiply. We begin with a silence we must enter. We do not begin by straining, we begin by consenting. And this, dear ones, is where offenses will come, because the human mind has been trained to do, to analyze, to insist, to measure. And we are now going to train it to yield, to trust, to be still, to know. Not to be passive, not to retire from life, but to allow life to be what it is within us, and to show itself as harmony without our strain. So I am going to let you in on the secret, and it is no secret at all except that we have hurried past it for lifetimes. The kingdom of God is within you. He is closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. When you turn there, not in imagination to a sky, not to a far place, but here, where you are, you will find that God is not missing. Our work, then, is not to get God into a situation. Our work is to get our sense of a separate self out of the way. Do you see the reversal? We have been praying as if we were outside knocking to be let in. but we are already within, and we have but to be still and let the Father within be the Father. Now I can hear the heart ask, and it is right to ask, if the Father within does the works, what is my role, right now, in the moment of pain? This is the question that will accompany us all through this time together. This is not a theory to file away. This is for the instant when the physician's report is hard, when the child is fevered, when the bill is due, when the grievance burns, when the night is long. What do you do then? You do not tighten, you do not bargain, you do not perform power, you return, you consent, you become willing to let the presence govern the scene, and you will know it governs because your inner sea grows quiet, and with that quiet a wisdom begins to order your steps. Now do not mistake me, I do not mean a fog of pious passivity. I do not mean that we sit in a corner and call that faith. I mean that we place first things first, inner yielding before outer doing, and from that yielding, action, clear, simple, right action, may rise without strain. But let us not run ahead. Tonight we are only turning around. We are facing inward. We are agreeing that prayer which heals begins when human effort ends, and divine presence is allowed to be itself. If in these minutes together you taste even a breath of that, even the lightest touch of peace that is not your manufacture, then you have already touched the law of fruit. For the Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly, and outer harmony is the echo of inner contact. So let this be our orientation, our setting of the compass. We are not here to get, to fix, to force. We are here to consent, to yield, to let. We are here to learn, as learn we can, that the only part assigned to us is the turning within, the little surrender, the closing of the door to the world's authority, and the opening of the heart to the one authority. And as we do, you will see, do you doubt it, that the very places where you once strained will begin to show forth their own adjustment without your pushing, because the government is upon his shoulder, not yours. We will take this step by step, and we will keep it holy and secret in the heart. But for this evening let the burden rest where it belongs, and let us agree together on this one truth that begins all true prayer. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Beautiful. Now, since we have agreed to let the burden rest where it belongs, let me say something that I did not know for far too long, and I will say it plainly, so there is no halo around it. I didn't know how to pray. I don't mean I didn't know the words. I knew many words. I knew the Lord's Prayer. I knew the Psalms. I knew beautiful affirmations that I thought could shake the heavens, if only I stacked them high enough. I knew how to fold the hands, and I knew the solemn tone to take, and I knew how to lengthen a sentence until it sounded devout. But prayer, real prayer, I did not know it. And I'm telling you this because I suspect you have been honest and brave and religious too. And yet somewhere inside there has been confusion, not because you were insincere, but because no one told us the one thing that changes everything. Who is the doer in prayer? There were seasons, long ones, when I would set a clock on the table as if God took time cards, and I would report for duty. 5 minutes of petition, 10 of pleading, 15 of promises. I rehearsed the problem to him in careful detail, as though omniscience were a little rusty and needed briefing. I outlined the steps by which I thought the solution should arrive. This person should say this, that office should stamp that, this phone call should come, this check should clear by Friday. And having drawn my chart, I pointed to it in fervor, and then to seal the bargain I offered a vow. If you will do it just this way, I will do thus and so. And I must laugh now, not mocking you, not mocking me, but laughing with that relieved laughter that comes when the fever breaks. Did we really think we had to instruct infinity? Excuse me. Now listen, because here is the hidden assumption under all of that strain, and it is a tender thing to see, and when you see it, The shoulders drop. The assumption was that prayer is a technique by which a person moves God, persuades God, or instructs God. Do you see it? If God is reluctant, I must persuade. If God is unknowing, I must inform. If God is withholding, I must bargain. And if all of that is true, then of course the struggle must be heroic, because look who is carrying the load. I am. I must get the words right, the hours right, the posture right, the fervor right, the mental picture right, and then I must keep checking the outer world as if I had sent a special delivery and could track its progress. Is it there yet? Is it moving? Has anything changed? And if it has not, what do? I redouble. I tighten. I call it faith, but it is anxiety with religious words on top. I share this not to shame you, but to set you free from the quiet tyranny of perfection in praying. Do you know that perfection I mean? The one that whispers at midnight, "If only you had believed harder, if only you hadn't doubted for 2 seconds, if only you had found the exact phrase." And then what? Then we go back into the workshop of the mind and build a bigger lever. We diagnose more intricately. We tell God more. Father, let me explain how serious this is. As if the Father that knoweth what things ye have need of, before ye ask him, needed our case file. No. Now remember this. The struggle in prayer very often proves that we are still trying to do the works. It is not proof of our devotion. It is proof that the little self is still at the controls, attempting to pilot the universe with a trembling hand. And I am going to interrupt myself to make a confession within the confession, because it will show you the trap. When I prayed that way, on the rare occasions that something seemed to go the way I had prescribed, I took a little bow to myself in the heart. You see, I did that prayer right. And on the many occasions when nothing moved, or moved crooked, I carried guilt like a stone. In both cases, I was the actor of record, either the successful technician or the failed petitioner. Do you see how even our piety can fasten us to our own sense of being the doer? If I speak of myself, I bear witness to a lie. I did not know how to pray because I had not yet let go of myself as the operative power. Let me let you in on the secret, and you keep this very close because it is for the heart, not for bragging. The shocking end is not that prayer fails, but that our concept of our role has been mistaken. We have been attempting to perform power when our true function is to consent to presence. We have been attempting to move God when in truth, God moves as our very being. We have been outlining results when we were asked only to go within and shut the door. Now, I do not mean by this that we will never again bring a concern to God. Of course, the heart speaks. But the speaking is not informing, it is yielding. The words are not blueprints, they are doorways. And if you will notice, the instant the thought becomes, "How can I make this happen?" there creeps in that familiar tension across the brow, and you have your proof that the false assumption has returned. You are attempting to be the worker again. I can say to you with authority born of stumbling and then of seeing, the end of that assumption is the beginning of peace. Even before one outward adjustment occurs, the very first fruit is quiet. You will discover a curious thing. When you stop persuading, you begin perceiving. When you stop rehearsing the trouble to God, you begin realizing God. And from that realization, without your strain, guidance rises. Not a program, not a guarantee, just the next right word, the next right step, and often a gentle sense that nothing is required of you now but to rest. The Father within doeth the works. If that is true, and it is, then your prayer is not a performance, but a permission. Your struggle is not a badge, it is a signal. When you feel it, you can smile a little and say, "I have wandered again into trying to be the doer," and you return not with blame, but with the simple consent that says, "Here I am. Be thou the worker." So let this confession be yours as it is mine, because in that honesty something loosens. I did not know how to pray, because I thought prayer was my art of moving God. I know a little better now, and I am content to learn more. And as we go on, we will see, gently and privately, how this reversal of agency becomes a way of living, how the very places you once strained become the places of quiet fruit. But for this moment, take the guilt off your shoulders. There has been no failure in you, only a beautiful misassignment. Reassign it. Return the works to the worker. I can of mine own self do nothing. Say it not as defeat, but as the sweetest relief. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Beautiful. Now we come to the turn, the hinge on which the whole door swings, and I want you to hear it not as poetry, but as commandment to the heart. If I speak of myself, I bear witness to a lie. Do you feel the clean edge of that? The personal I that wishes to be savior, manager, fixer, that busy self which narrates the crisis and outlines the cure, that one is not the power. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the works. Now remember this, because it will save you years. You are not asked to perform power. You are asked to consent to presence. You are not asked to be the light. You are asked to be transparent to the light. Let me interrupt myself and say what this does not mean, because the mind will twist a truth into a dodge if it can. Do nothing does not mean apathy. Do nothing does not mean fatalism. Do nothing does not mean neglect of duty, disregard of wisdom, or some lazy postponement cloaked in piety. No, no. Do nothing means cease from the anxious, self-originated attempt to make spirit act according to your plan. It means stop taking the universe on your shoulders. It means lay down the tools of mental engineering, persuading, pushing, pleading, and come to stillness long enough for the presence to announce itself. When it does, it governs the situation as law unto itself. I am going to tell you what I discovered by bruises and by grace, and I can say it with authority because I have tried it the other way, until it broke me. Every time I spoke of myself, my plan, my effort, my scheduled miracle, I had already veiled the very thing I was seeking. And every time I yielded the self that wanted to perform and I let be, I began to feel a settling. And that settling was not the end of action. It was the beginning of right action. Action that arises of itself, without strain, in proportions I could not have calculated. Where does it rise from? From the indwelling one who is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, who is forever saying, "Be still and know that I am God." Now I know the question that comes. If I am not the doer, what becomes of my responsibility? What becomes of my love for the child, the business, the body? It is not lost. It is cleansed. Responsibility becomes responsiveness to presence instead of reaction to appearances. Love becomes the quiet strength that does not try to save by effort, but saves by seeing. Seeing God where a condition clamors to be the story. And action? Action becomes obedience to the next right light, which so often is silence for a few moments, and then perhaps a phone call, a visit, a word, or sometimes a holy refrain from speaking at all. But notice the sequence. Stillness first. Then, if there be action, let it come as fruit of contact, not as compensation for fear. Let me say it with short, clear lines, so it is sealed in you. You are not the power. You are the place where the power is realized. You are not the healer. You are the transparency through which the healer announces himself. You are not the governor of outcomes. You are the consent by which the government is upon his shoulder. And because that is true, your first and only task in prayer is operationally simple. Attain inner stillness, just a breath beyond words, long enough to recognize presence. That recognition is the law to the case, not your outline, not your bargaining, the recognition. And you will say, "But how shall I know I have recognized it?" You will know because the waters inside drop from a chop to a quiet. You will know because the tension across the brow, the one we spoke of, loosens of itself. You will know because the question marks become a period. God is, not "I hope," not "if only." God is. And in the wake of that sentence, guidance moves, or rest moves, and you find yourself under orders that do not weary you. Do you hear this? The order of spirit never wearies you. It may be firm, it is often simple, and it carries a joy, even in the midst of tears, because it does not depend upon your wattage. The Father within doeth the works. And again, because I know the human mind, and because I have one myself, I must ward off the crooked invitation to boast, even in our quiet. We do not parade this. We do not turn it into a badge or a slogan. Keep the finger to the lip. Guard the secret place. If you must speak, speak to the Father in secret. If you must answer a friend, answer with kindness, not with metaphysics. Why? Because the moment we speak of ourselves, even to say, "See what consciousness can do," we have borne witness to a lie and unplugged ourselves from the current. Secrecy protects humility. Humility protects contact. Contact bears fruitage. Some of you will ask, can this be trained, or is it a lightning flash? It can be trained. Meditation is an art that can be learned. Illumination comes by grace, but we place ourselves where grace finds us by the simple faithfulness of returning and returning and returning. High or low, rich or poor, sick or well, saint or sinner, it is the same road, inward. Do you think God gives a private entrance to a select few? No. The kingdom of God is within you, not within your resume, not within your virtue, not within your intelligence, within you. Go there. Shut the door on the world's claim to be your authority. Wait, if only for 30 seconds, in readiness, not making thoughts, but letting them drift past until the one thought remains. Here I am, Father, be thou the worker. And I will add this to strengthen your courage. When you make this consent, you may discover that things you were going to do fall away as unnecessary, and some things you never considered become obvious. Do not argue. Follow the obvious that comes with peace, not the scheme that comes with pressure. There is a difference, and you will learn to feel it. The scheme says, hurry or else. Peace says, now or not now, with equal ease. The scheme needs spectators and applause. Peace is content to be hidden. The scheme requires you to know the problem from every angle. Peace requires you to know God. Now remember this, you will never need to know problems. You will only need to know God. If that line offends the intellect, let it. Let the offense do its purifying work until what remains is the child heart that can say, Abba, and be still. So let the agency be reversed, fully, gladly. Step out of the role of performer and into the role of witness and transparency. Let the personal I resign its imaginary office. Let the presence that is power assume its rightful government within you. And then stand back, not with folded arms of laziness, but with open hands of consent, and watch how the Father that seeth in secret rewardeth openly, in ways large and small, in moments quiet and obvious, all without your strain. From here on, our work is singular. Return to stillness, recognize presence, and let it be law unto the situation. Beautiful. Now we must make this very practical, because otherwise it remains a lovely phrase, and nothing turns. Go within and shut the door. Where is this within, and what is this door? Listen carefully. The closet is consciousness. The door you shut is the belief that the outer world is the authority. Not that you slam a door in someone's face, not that you escape your obligations, but that you withdraw for a few holy moments the allegiance of your mind from appearances, from headlines, from reports, from the running commentary of fear and forecasting. You change locations, not by feet, but by consent, moving from the circumference of life to the center where God is. I am going to interrupt myself and say it plainly. This is not cloud nine. This is not floating off into a pious vapor. This is the most responsible act you can perform because it returns the government to God before you take your next step in the world. Do not let the mind trick you with caricatures of mysticism. We are not vanishing. We are taking our stand in the only place where law is law, where the Father within governs as order and peace and wisdom. From that stand, we come back to the outer scene under orders, not under panic. So let me give you the physical cue, because bodies are simple and helpful. If you are able, close the eyes. If not, soften the gaze. But understand, the eyelids are not the door. The door is the authority you are granting to the out here. For 30 seconds, do not make a marathon of it. Turn the attention backward, as if you were listening behind the forehead to a holy quiet. And now begin to shut the door on traffic. How? Not with a fight, with a sentence of withdrawal. I acknowledge no power in appearances. Father, thou art the law unto this situation. The diagnosis comes to mind. Let it pass through like a bird across the sky. The balance sheet rises, let it recede. The face of the one who offended you appears. Acknowledge the presence as the only presence and let the picture dissolve. Do not argue, do not improve the pictures. Simply deprive them of being your authority by refusing to consult them. At first, the mind will knock at the door with very important reasons to keep thinking. But what about Friday? What about the letter? What if it gets worse? Smile a little if you can. Keep the finger to the lip and answer with the simplest truth you have learned. God is. The Father within doeth the works. Let that be your entire thought for 10 seconds. Then be quiet. Do you notice, perhaps, that the breath is less managed? That the shoulders begin to forget their duty of holding up the world? That the brow releases its grip on the future? These are the first soft signs that the door has been drawn to. And now, in that hush, another peace approaches. Not our peace, God's peace. Not the peace of problems solved by our arithmetic. The peace that announces a presence closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Some will say, but aren't we ignoring the facts? No. We are putting facts back in their place under truth. There is a difference between denial and dethronement. We do not deny that letters come and bodies ache and accounts are due. We dethrone them from the seat of authority. We say, in effect, you may report what you see on the surface, but you do not legislate my being. The Father within is my law. When you have said that, not angrily, not as a spell, but as a recognition, you will feel another government begin to assert itself inside you. It is gentle, it is firm, it never hurries you, it does not bargain with you, it simply is. And in its isness, your turmoil finds it cannot keep shouting. Now, remember this. The first evidence that you have truly entered the closet and shut the door is not that the telephone rings with good news or that the pain evaporates like fog. The first evidence is the settling into quietness. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Peace is the announcement that God is on the field. Do you want an operational test? Here it is. If, when you open your eyes, you must rush back into rearranging the world by willpower, the door is still ajar to the world's authority. If, when you open your eyes, there is a residue of quiet, a holy pause before every move, the door has been shut, and the Father that seethed in secret has begun to govern openly, in your nerves, in your words, and in due course, in the outer scene. Let us make the location shift still clearer. Out here are the stories, yours, mine, the community's. Out here are clocks and calendars, symptoms and charts. Opinions and counters opinions. In here, do you sense it? There is a floor that is not made of the day's events. In here is the I am of you that is not sick when the body is sick, not bankrupt when the ledger is thin, not shamed when the world is unkind. In here is presence as presence, before it ever becomes solution. When you take 30 seconds to relocate attention from the circumference to this center, you have done more than all the anxious planning could achieve. Why? Because you have brought yourself under law, the one law that does not break under pressure. Be still and know that I am God. Not know the problem, not predict the outcome. Know God. And I am going to say it again, because the mind needs this guardrail. This is not a refusal of action. It is a refusal of self-originated action. It is not a postponement of duty. It is the consecration of duty to the only doer. It is not a mystical hobby. It is the plain obedience of a soul that has discovered its center. From that center, action follows, sometimes swift, sometimes delayed, but always bearing the mark of peace. You will recognize it. The action that arises from presence does not crave applause, does not seek to prove itself, and does not exhaust you in the proving. It may be as simple as making a call you had been avoiding, or as radical as withdrawing a word you had been ready to speak. But you will know it by this: it keeps you within the sanctuary, even while your feet are in the street. Now, since we are learning an art, be content with small fidelities. Do not think you must build a cathedral of silence at once. Take your 30 seconds in the morning, perhaps before the house begins its running. Take your 30 seconds in the car before the meeting. Take your 30 seconds in the night when the mind would go to forecasting. Each time enact the same move. Withdraw authority from appearances. Acknowledge the Father within. Wait until peace, not your peace, God's peace, touches the rim of your being, and then, only then, re-enter the scene. In this way, the closet ceases to be a rare room you visit and becomes a home you carry, a sanctuary that is as close to you as breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Do you see what has happened? Prayer has become locational, not far, not high, not elsewhere, here within. And the door, oh, that beautiful door, is simply the closing of belief that the outside dictates the inside. Close it often, gently, secretly. And as you do, you will discover a wonder. The more faithfully you honor the secret chamber, the more the outer rooms of your life begin to arrange themselves without your strain, as if a quiet hand had moved through them. That is not imagination. That is the Father that seeth in secret, rewarding openly. Beautiful. Now let us come down to the very hour when theory vanishes and the pulse is in your throat. The moment of fear. It comes with a letter on the table, with a voice on the telephone, with a sensation in the body, with a headline that seems to shout your name. I know that instant. I am not guessing, and I want to give you, right there, a way, a holy, simple way that does not ask you to be strong or clever or fast. It asks you only to stop being the doer for 30 seconds. Here is the protocol, and I am speaking slowly so that you can take it into practice, not into notes. First, stop. That is the first act of courage. Stop. Do not explain the problem to yourself again. Do not begin to outline what must happen by Friday. Do not dial the person you always dial to rehearse the fear. For 30 seconds, only that, withdraw the mind from its project of saving the world. If it helps, sit back slightly, let the hands rest, perhaps even close the eyes. But remember, the eyelids are not the practice. The consent is. Second, shut the door. How? By refusing authority to the appearance for these few moments. You are not arguing with it, you are dethroning it. Say within, not as a spell, but as a recognition, Father, thou art here. Or, if that rises more naturally, where I am, God is. One sentence. Then be quiet. I am going to interrupt myself to make sure you hear this. That sentence is not a charm, and it is not for counting. It is a door opener. Use it once, twice, until you feel the turn inward, and then let it fall away into silence. Third, refuse the 3 old labors that have exhausted you. Refuse to explain the problem to yourself or to God. He knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask. Refuse to predict outcomes. The future does not exist in the presence. Only God is. Refuse to seek a mental solution. You are not here to invent the cure. You are here to consent to the presence that is cure. When those old habits knock, and they will, answer gently, "Not now, Father, thou art the worker." Then return to quiet. Fourth, for the remainder of the 30 seconds, rest the attention, as if setting it down, in that inner sanctuary we have found. Do not strive to make light appear. Do not push away thoughts with force. Let them pass through like birds across a summer sky, while your gaze remains with the invisible center. If a thought hooks you, notice it, and answer once with recognition, God is, and let it go. Keep the finger on the lip of the mind. Let the hush develop itself. Now, while we are together, let us practice for a moment. Right now, withdraw the allegiance of the mind from whatever news has been shouting. Draw the attention backward just a few inches, as though listening behind the forehead. Whisper within, "Father, thou art here." That is all. Be still. Do you notice the thought that tries to resume the story? Let it float past. Do you notice the will that tenses to fix, to phone, to explain? Let it relax. Allow the shoulders to forget their task. The breath, notice it, begins to move of itself. The brow, yes, even there, loosens. And beneath the surface, as if the lake has remembered its depth, the ripples calm. Not our peace, God's peace. Just this. We are not promising the world anything in these seconds. We are acknowledging presence. Beautiful. Fifth, when the 30 seconds are complete, and you need not time it with a clock, you will feel when the sentence "God is" has become a period. Open the eyes gently. Do not rush to test the world. Do not jump up to see if it worked. That is the mind seeking to seize the reins again. Instead, pause. Ask within, not mentally, but as a felt listening, is there anything to do now? If there is, it will present itself as obvious and unstraining, like a door you had not noticed opening on quiet hinges. It may be to make a